If a problem seems unsolvable, explore beyond its boundaries. Xiefeng. June 26, 2023. Edited by Qingyu. Suppose a group of people live in a dim, dark, damp cave. How can they break free from this predicament? Is it possible to transform the gloomy, wet cave into a sunny, comfortable environment? Trying to study, research, strive, and work hard inside the cave is almost futile. The best way is not to contemplate within the cave but to step out of it. Stepping out of the cave, one would embrace the bright spring scenery, clear mountains, beautiful waters, fresh air, and vast territory, and all discomforts would vanish. In August 1896, China was a place where men wore long braids and women bound their feet. Ox carts and horse carriages were commonly seen on the streets. The houses were made of mud, and the roads were made of earth. Even a gust of wind could blow up clouds of dust. Beggars were everywhere, and there were no household electrical appliances, not even a flashlight. At that time, Lifechanyuan visited the United States and saw skyscrapers on the streets, with cars passing by, men in suits and leather shoes, and women bared their chests and shoulders. There were electric lights indoors. The contrast with China was immense. If he had not ventured abroad, Lifechanyuan would never have known how backward China was at that time. In 1978, China's per capita GDP was only $156, while the per capita GDP of the world's poorest countries in sub-Saharan Africa was $490. Monaco in Europe had a per capita GDP of $38,400, the United States was $10,600, and Japan was $8,821. Imagine how much China resembled a group of people living in a cave who had never seen the world. At that moment, Chinese leaders decisively abandoned the policy of isolation and sent a large number of government officials to various parts of the world for investigation, especially to developed Western countries. As a result, they broadened their horizons and opened their minds. Subsequently, China found its path of development through reform and opening up, leading to over 30 years of rapid economic growth. If they had not explored development outside but continued to study development ideas inside the cave, it would have been difficult to maintain a per capita GDP of $156. How long does it take to register a company? I don't know which country has the fastest company registration process, but I registered a company in a certain country in less than 10 minutes. There was no need to bribe officials, nor did I need to find acquaintances. I selected the company name, signed, paid, and received a complete set of company documents, all within the said time. Throughout human history on Earth for thousands of years, how many people have lived happily, joyfully, freely, and blessedly? Are there any? There are very few. More people live in distress, pain, conflict, struggle, oppression, anxiety, and fear. Why has this issue concerning all of humanity remained unresolved for thousands of years? Take a look at all the so-called great figures and thinkers throughout human history, observe their thoughts and actions. Look at the discussions on the internet today, especially those of so-called masters, including high-ranking officials in the United Nations and presidents and leaders of various countries. They are all contemplating and pondering within the cave. Why don't they go outside to take a look? By stepping out of the earth and observing the stars and oceans of the thousand-year world planet, and following their way of life, all the problems facing humanity will be easily solved. By walking out of the earth and exploring the thousand-year world among the vast sea of stars, following their way of life, wouldn't all the problems faced by humanity suddenly become clear and easily solvable? If a problem cannot be solved in Christianity, look for answers in Buddhism. If Buddhism cannot solve a problem, look for answers in Islam. If Islam cannot solve a problem, look for answers in Taoism. If Taoism cannot solve a problem, go to the frontiers of science for answers. If science cannot solve a problem, look for answers in theology and metaphysics. In short, do not seek solutions and paths within your own cave of knowledge and cognition. Instead, step outside your own cognitive circle and seek answers outside. For some problems, it is much more difficult for those within the circle to find a solution than ascending to the sky. But by stepping out, one will find that others had already solved them hundreds or even thousands of years ago. I once wrote an article called "When You Think You're Right, You're Already Wrong." If we do not step out of our own circle of knowledge and cognition, closing ourselves off in our own cave, then we will follow in the footsteps of past mistakes. Even after 10,000 years, humanity will still be trapped in the sea of suffering and unable to extricate itself. Isolationism, closing our eyes and ears, blocking information, shouting slogans, and paying no attention to external affairs will inevitably lead to ignorance, backwardness, barbarism, and ultimately, extinction.